In IBC 2006, there were no specific requirements for sprayed fire-resistant materials in high-rise buildings. For those of you not familiar with SFRM, according to section 1702.1, sprayed fire-resistant materials are cementitious or fibrous materials that are sprayed to provide fire-resistant protection of the substrates. A general bond strength requirement for all buildings was provided in IBC 2006, which specified a minimum of 150 pound per square foot PSF for sprayed fire-resistant materials applied to structural elements. Now, a new requirement specific to high-rise buildings was added in IBC 2009 to reduce the risk of dislodgement of sprayed fire-resistant materials during fires in high-rise buildings, which are essentially high-risk fires. To find out what the new code requirements are for SFRM in high-rise buildings, we're going to do a search for the keyword SFRM, and I'm going to click on this hyperlink, and this hyperlink this time incorporates the search query into it, so I won't need to type it again. And here I've searched SFRM among all of my codes, and again I'm going to click on my webinar book group, and I see the International Building Code has 4 matches for the search query. So let's take a look. This time I'm going to go directly to chapter 4, and I see section 403 highlighted. And scrolling down, I see a new table in section 403.2.4, which specifies the minimum bond strength in high-rise buildings. Now, the high-rise buildings are separated into 2, and there are 2 separate requirements for the bond strength requirements. One for high-rise buildings up to 420 feet, and the other one higher than 420 feet, which are super tall buildings. So again, going back to our presentation for the summary, for high-rise buildings up to 420 feet in height, the minimum bond strength for sprayed fire-resistant materials are now 430 PSF. And for buildings with a height greater than 420 feet, the SFRM minimum bond strength is increased significantly to 1,000 PSF. I also want to note a new requirement in the International Fire Code 2009. There's an error here. This should be International Fire Code 2009 for the maintenance of fire resistance rated construction. Don Long and John Dalton from Grace sent me an email about this change just a few days ago, and I highlighted the new text in yellow to show you what the change is. Basically, according to section 703.1, fire resistance rated construction, including fire stopping, SFRM, etc., these are required to be inspected visually by the owner annually. And if the elements are concealed, they do not need to be inspected unless the concealed space is accessible by the removal of a panel, access door, ceiling tile, or similar movable entries to the space. Now, this is quite a high impact change for the maintenance of buildings in general, and I'm sure facility managers listening are noting this change. Continuing on to the third change, we're jumping on to the automatic sprinkler system changes for high-rise buildings. And the first change we're going to look at is in the number of sprinkler risers. There's a change. Now, in IBC 2006, some of the main sprinkler requirements, specifically for high-rise buildings, were that automatic sprinkler systems were required, with exceptions such as open parking garages and telecommunication towers, and also approved supervised indicating control valves at the top point of connection to the riser was required on each floor in high-rise buildings, and various fire-resistant rating reductions were permitted in high-rise buildings that had sprinkler control valves equipped with supervisory and water flow initiating devices for each flow. In the new 2009 IBC, there are some new changes for the sprinkler system were made in order to increase the redundancy of the active fire protection in high-rise buildings. To look for these changes, we're going to search for automatic sprinkler system phrase and also combine high-rise buildings into the search query. And again, I'm going to click on the hyperlink. And I've now searched automatic sprinkler system and high-rise buildings together, two separate phrases. And I see the IBC 2009 with 10 matches. Again, let's click on it to go to the table of contents. And I'm going to jump to section 4, section 403. And as I scroll down in section 403.3 automatic sprinkler system, I can note the new changes for the number of sprinklers and system design. According to the new section 403.3.1, each sprinkler system zone in buildings more than 420 feet in building height are required to provide a minimum of 2 risers. Now I'm going to just jump back to the presentation again, where we provide an illustration and summary for this change. So in summary, in high-rise buildings more than 420 feet in building height, each sprinkler zone must have a minimum of 2 risers, and each riser must supply sprinklers on alternate floors.